Hi everyone, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Tesabela Koamesah, and I'm standing here today as the representative of the Faculty of Psychology, Universitas Ciputra, Surabaya. Today, I'll be talking about one specific Sustainable Development Goal, which is goal number 13, to take urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. The type of speech I'll be delivering today is a persuasive speech, so I hope through this video, I might be able to give the audience more insights and also more opinions about the topic. So, without any further ado, I will begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, do you believe me if I said that the Earth has an army that fights to protect it? Do you believe me if I told you that there's a group of people, a community, brave enough to take drastic measures in order to stop people from harming the Earth? In fact, they do exist, and we know them as Earth Liberation Front, or ELF. ELF is a network of autonomous communities that hold the same ideology, to put Earth first in whatever action that they do. ELF is a collective and anonymous group that's very unique because they aim to halt environmental destruction by using unconventional methods such as economic sabotage and also guerrilla warfare. Their movement mainly focuses on destroying facilities of industrial properties that are damaging the environment. So, in order to do this, in order to reach that goal, they do radicalistic actions such as bombing, arsons, and also vandalism, etc. Any activists inspired by the ELF's mindset are allowed to take actions of their own as long as they follow two main principles. First, their action have to cause a huge economic loss for the target, and second, they have to avoid harming both human and non-human lives. So at this point, some of you might think, isn't that a little bit too extreme? Prioritizing the Earth doesn't have to be shown in such destructive ways, right? Besides, we can't deny that every time ELF takes action, there will be victims. For example, the people who had their business ruined, people who might lose their job because their workplace is destroyed. They will obviously have to struggle financially. Also, people who coincidentally live near the areas where there is arson and there's bombing, they will also feel fear and intimidation, which is essentially what terrorism is about. However, if we think about the reason behind these radical actions, you'll see what I see. Let's take a look at some facts in order to understand from their point of view as well. In this year of 2021, the fact that climate change is happening can no longer be ignored. Back in February, a devastating winter storm had hit Texas, and ABC Net News reported that 30 people had died for hypothermia because of the season. While one part of the universe suffers from extreme cold, the other part of the universe suffers from extreme heat. In June, Portland City had reached the temperature of 44 degrees Celsius, causing the asphalt roads in that city to melt. There's one more familiar event that might be familiar to all of us. Do you remember the Saroja cyclone that happened in East Nusa Tenggara back in April? Well, according to the head of Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysics Agency in Indonesia, they think that Saroja happened because the temperature of the sea surface in East Nusa Tenggara is significantly higher than it's supposed to be. And those are just a few examples, ladies and gentlemen, of how climate change is happening right now. And this is the urgency that ELF see. They see that this is the urgency to act against companies who are working and still doing industrial properties in order to gain their profit. They're choosing to protect their profit first instead of protecting the Earth. And this is a dangerous mindset that I hope none of us have. But maybe you all have this mindset too. Allow me to explain. It might be easier for us to think that companies sacrifice the Earth in order to have a lot of money on their own. But what does that have to do with us, right? How do we in our daily life have this mindset as well? In my argument, I think that profit is not always about financial gain. To gain profit is to gain advantage, including the feeling of convenience. For example, how many of us choose to buy food and beverage using plastic containers instead of buying our own reusable containers and bring them from home? Or how many of us choose to use motor vehicles when we can also walk and take a bite to reduce the air pollution? Ladies and gentlemen, these are just a few examples of trivial things that we do. Trivial things that we do for convenience, yet it's harming the Earth. What I propose to you today is a war of mindset. The first mindset is to believe that our profit and our own personal gain is more important. And the second is to firmly believe that Earth should be the priority, no matter what advantage we need to sacrifice. If you're still standing in the first mindset, I challenge you to move your stance. Remember, we have many options. There are lots of courses of actions that we can take. to gain our profit without destroying the earth. However, once the earth is destroyed, we no longer have an option because the earth is irreplaceable. Therefore, I challenge every policymaker, the government, private companies, even all of us here today, as humans living on earth, to sacrifice our profit, our personal gain, to protect our one and only earth. Thank you.